I'm very excited to jump into today's questions. We have lots of questions and yeah, ready to get going. Let me just grab them and let's do it. So the first question for this week is from Mari. And it is, you give some amazing advice to how to deal with people asking you to help them. But for me, the problem is within my closest family, with my kids and my husband. Say, for example, that I need some time alone with my thoughts over a cup of coffee, then my children want my attention to come and play with them. So I look at something they're doing to help with the shoe that's tricky or to get a glass of water. My first response is to say, not now, mommy wants to finish her coffee. But immediately after that, I start questioning myself. Is my need worth more than their needs? Usually I end up abandoning my coffee. What can I do in situations like this to know whether I should stand up for my need or not? Okay, so that's a really great question. And Mari, for you and for anyone else who's parenting and is drawn or is kind of pulled between attending to your children's needs and attending to your own, there's a fine line, of course. That I think that's obvious to any person who's been around people who are um, who demand their time and attention, and for a good reason. A lot of the times, especially with kids, there are things that they can't do for themselves that you can do, that you can only help them with. Now, there are a couple of things you can do around this, and the first thing to do is, are they able to do these things themselves? So can they work out? Can they have enough patience to work out the shoe, for example, without you jumping in? So if you are always the easy button, so to speak, for that person, for that child, you actually take away their ability to learn and to teach themselves to learn more. So you effectively could be disempowering that person by just always attending to their needs. There's an exaggerated version of this, and it's called learned helplessness, where parents make everything that their children do an opportunity to help them, so that the child feels supported. But of course, the problem with that is then that the child never learns to kind of think for themselves, to try and come up with a solution, because there's always somebody there to help. And then if you don't learn how to think something through, then that's obviously going to not help you for the rest of your life. When, as grown-ups, we don't always have people who can help us with stuff, that we have to figure things out for ourselves. So my kind of challenge to you in that way becomes, can you ask the child, is the child mature enough, depending on their levels of maturity, for their age, and also their personal levels of maturity, even at that age, because different kids are different levels of maturity at different ages. Are you able to say to them, hey, let's slow this way down, and come over here while I'm having this coffee, and come and tell me how you're going to figure this out, how you're going to do this. So you don't have to have, one or the other. You can actually have both while still helping the child to, really empower themselves through it. The second thing is that if you're, if you're always available for your children, it makes them naturally always look up to you for leadership. And so you saying, I'm going to have this coffee and I'll be there in 10 minutes to help you, that allows the child themselves to learn to be either to be their own leader or to learn to wait, to have patience. So it's good to remember that we teach people around us how to treat us by how we are with them in different situations. So you were asking, what can I do in situations like this to know whether I should stand up for myself, for my need or not? Well, the very first thing that comes to mind when you're asking that is that if you feel like you have to stand up for it, then you generally don't feel like your needs are being met, because if you do generally meet your needs, then you don't feel like you have to stand up to meet your needs. So that to me is a sign that you should in fact finish your coffee or learn to set those boundaries, that you do realize that, you know, you don't have to stand up for yourself. You can just set a boundary without it being a big, massive deal. So that's what I would say to that, Mari. Let me know if that's helpful. And anybody else, if you thought of, if anything came up for you that you thought, oh, I've never thought of that. You know, that's happened in my life too. Or if you just want to send Mari some good wishes, and you can just say, hey, I really relate to what you're what you're talking about here, then by all means do that too. I'd love to hear from you.